There we go. Well, hello and welcome everybody to Operation Holiday Cheer. We're engaging teams and we're preventing holiday scams today. I'm Kevin McMenamin, your host with Loss Prevention Magazine, and with me is my partner in organized retail crime, Jack Britton. Jack, how you doing?
I'm doing great today, Kevin. Looks like you're ready to go to work. Hey,
I am.
everyone.
I am. I'm making a list and I'm checking it twice, and I'm definitely going to find out who is naughty and who is nice. So let's get started. I think we've got a whole list of really nice people here today that are going to help us out. We've got some great presenters and we've got some great sponsors that we want to thank. Let's have to start out by thanking our sponsors. We have Alto, Flock Safety, Teatro, which is a Motorola solutions company. We have Gatekeeper Systems, Axon, and i3 International. And we do love, love, love our sponsors, and you should too. They give you the gift of these sessions. If they didn't sponsor, we wouldn't be able to bring you these great sessions. We wouldn't be able to bring you that education. And we can't do it without them. So please show them some love and please take some time to learn a little bit more about what they do. And I'm going to help you do that today because we've got a little bit about each one of the sponsors. So let's start with the first set here. That's Gatekeeper Systems. Thank you very much, Gatekeeper Systems.
Alto is an asset protection solution powered by a nationwide network that drives deterrence and ensures accountability for crimes. How do we do it? Our legal and on-the-ground teams support retailers and other businesses by managing crime incidents from investigation to adjudication. Why does this matter? Because crime isn't just about losses. It affects real people. Employees, customers, and communities all deserve a safe environment. Alto ensures accountability so crime doesn't escalate. Alto, a nationwide alliance that protects retailers and empowers communities.
Thank you, Alto. Next up, we have Flock Safety. Organized retail crime can negatively impact your entire organization, including your supply chain. Learn how Flock Safety's solutions can help retailers better protect their assets by easily identifying unauthorized vehicles in warehouse or retail locations, gaining clarity on truck movements, know which vehicles are arriving, leaving, or missing for swift resolutions, leveraging vehicle data to dismantle crime rings, and enhance collaboration between retailers, distribution centers, logistic providers, and law enforcement. Check them out today at flocksafety.com. Next up, we want to thank our education partner, the Loss Prevention Foundation, your LPC and LPQ. They are the gift that keeps on giving. That's professional certification to advance your career. If you are not already certified, why the heck not? Sign up today and get your LPQ or your LPC. And if you pay close attention to this webinar today, we're actually going to give away a couple of scholarships for LPQ and LPC. So stay tuned for that a little bit later. Oh, look how excited she is. She just got her Loss Prevention magazine for Christmas. Isn't that what every little boy and girl wants? I know you want it. It's the gift that costs you nothing, but it gives back all year long thanks to our very generous sponsors. You can get LP Magazine for free, FREE, free. Subscribe today. Use the QR code, scan it with your phone, or you can sign up and subscribe at losspreventionmedia.com. Click on subscribe, and you'll be as happy and as excited as this little girl right here getting LP Magazine right to your home or office just in time for the holidays. All right, I think that's it for my intro, Jack. I think we're about ready to introduce our first panel of speakers. You want to take it from here?
All right, we're going to start today off with Tom Cosgrove with FMI, Chris Harris with Brookshire, and Chris Jerome with Aldi. Tom, why don't we start with you? Can you just tell our audience a little bit more about yourself? I know most of us know Tom, but Tom, could you just give us a little bit of background?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jack and Kevin. My name's Tom. I'm Director of Industry Relations here at FMI. We are the trade association that represents the grocery industry. I've been at FMI for 9 years, in this role for 3. One of the many things that I have the privilege of doing at FMI is supporting our Asset Protection Council, of which Chris Harris is our chair. And we obviously work very closely with the Loss Prevention Magazine and the Loss Prevention Foundation. So I'm very happy to be here today.
And Tom has a terrific shirt on for us today. Chris Harris, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Jack. I'm the Vice President of Asset Protection, Safety, and Food Safety with Brookshire Grocery Company. We're out of Texas, 222 stores. I've been in the industry for about 25 years. Really appreciate what you all do and these webinars that we're doing today to better our industry. So thank you guys for that.
And last but certainly not least, we have Chris Jerome with Aldi.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Jack. Like I said, I'm with Aldi. I've been the national manager of fraud and loss at Aldi for about the last 3 years. Prior to that, spent about 25 years, similar to Mr. Harris, various retailers throughout the industry. For those who don't know, since Aldi is primarily on the east side, we got 2,500 plus stores all across the country, but largely in this Midwest and the East and the Southeast.
All right, well, welcome everyone. We appreciate you being here with us today. We're going to stop share and we're going to handle this as a panel discussion. So why don't we start with a look at the big picture? What's on your mind as an asset protection leader during the holiday season? Why don't we start with Tom as an association leader as well? What's top of mind right now during this time of year?
There's so many things, Jack, thanks. There's so many things right now on top of mind in food retail. Certainly coming out of the SNAP cliff that we just dealt with across the country, and certainly looking at increased volume in the stores, both from a sales perspective, but also from traffic perspective. There's certainly opportunities in gift cards that we're definitely keeping an eye out for. And then from a more of a safety perspective, certainly as it gets colder, we've got some weather that could impact the stores, people getting, slipping and things like that. So there's a lot of, especially the front end, which I know is the focus for today, a lot that we're looking at.
Perfect. Well, let's go to Chris Harris next. Chris, if you look like you're the one checking Santa's naughty and nice list there today. What do you think?
Well, coincidentally, Jack, I just happened to wear this today, so I'm glad with everyone else. Busy holiday season, theft and fraud comes to mind for me. Stores are the busiest. Our employees are exhausted. Many are new, just trying to get extra cash. So as I think about it, certainly protecting that front end is on my mind. But more importantly, protecting our people on that front end is really where a lot of my thoughts are this time of year.
Everybody seems to really, we need to focus on safety during this time of year, right? With all that's going on. Chris Jerome, how about you? I saw your background there. It looks like you and your wife are getting you involved in the holiday season a little early this year.
Oh, absolutely. Holiday all year round here. But as far as work and getting prepared for the holidays there, not to sound like a broken record with Tom and Chris, but obviously employee safety is paramount, especially as it relates around that front end. Tom mentioned, obviously, we're transitioning right out of that EBT issue, right? The government shutdown and some of the tensions that rise there right into the holiday season. As Chris mentioned, you're starting to bring those new hires in as well. So it's really preparing them to what they expect and make sure they have the tools and the resources they need as they're dealing with the increased customer flow and the increased tensions. Just make sure that they're ready and that they don't have any issues that are going to help escalate and cause an issue at the front end. So preparing those new hires to be safe during the holiday season.
And that's what it's it's all about is safety, right? But as you said, Chris, you've got a lot of people, you got a lot of new people walking in the door, that are representing the business, and it can be a challenge to keep them focused and motivated, and alert for safety reasons, alert for shrink and loss reasons. What's one thing that you've learned over your years about keeping store teams motivated and alert through the chaotic holiday season?
Well, I mean, the first thing I've always thought about when it comes to the holiday awareness and getting those new hires ready is your holiday program really needs to be an extension of a year-round program, right? You can't just start talking safety and shrink at the holidays and expect everybody to go through, especially because you're really reliant on those veteran people, the year-round employees, to be the voices for you, right? And be that extension of the loss prevention or asset protection program. So you've got to have a solid foundation, and then you just kind of theming it and ramping it up for the things that are the hot buttons, whether it's pivoting and being prepared for things like the EBT that kind of coincided and rolled right into the holiday season, or knowing what trends are coming up. Tom mentioned a little bit with the spike in the gift cards, which kind of also coincides to some of the EBT piece that we're seeing, right? So it's making sure that your veterans or legacy team is prepared to act as that extension and really be there to mentor those newbies, the new hires, the seasonal workers, as you get into the holiday season.
Makes sense. Chris Harris, what do you think?
Yeah,
What's one of the key things you've learned and taken with you over the years for this time of year?
Yeah, I've learned similar to what Chris said, it's not the time to do anything new right now. You hope that you've built that foundation over the years or over the year. But really for me, I switch a little bit and do more celebration, more recognition. And sometimes in our line of work, we're detail oriented. So we find what's wrong. So sometimes at this time of year, we really have to look a little bit past what's not perfect, and make sure we're looking for what's right and what's things that we can really motivate the teams. They're tired, they're busy, and that little bit of push like that positively, I think, are going to get them on board with what we want. And also doing that alongside them. So one of the techniques I like to do is when I do holiday visits, I'll bag with a cashier. So as they're ringing up, I'll bag, and just have a conversation. And I hope that carries on through my team, and everyone does that when they're out visiting, because the time you take with that associate to tell your story or tell them what to expect alongside them certainly goes a tremendous way. Now it's humbling too, especially when they correct your bagging. One time I actually had someone dump my bag out and rebag it because I didn't do it the right way. So it's humbling, but I tell you, it's impactful and powerful.
Chris, living over here in Europe now, I've found the grocery stores here, they make you bag your own. I'm learning a whole new skill. So when I come back, I might be hitting you up for a job.
Well, maybe you should teach me how to do it then.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Apparently, I don't know if I'm doing it right either, but no, I think that's a great point. And we make so much more progress when we extend that personal touch, right? When we take the time to talk to people, take the time to get to know people, take the time to have those conversations. And I think that's a great approach to share with folks, in the audience there about, the success that you can have just by, taking that minute to get involved. And what better way to get involved than, you're actually helping them do their job while you're getting to know them and talk to them about what's going on, right?
And Kevin, if I can build off of something that Chris said, in terms of celebrating the employees, FMI's board of directors put together the Supermarket Employee Day, which I know is in February, but it really recognized after COVID how they're heroes in the industry, and especially our frontline associates. And so, Chris, I appreciate that you brought that up. I think it's a great way to just show our appreciation and make sure they understand how important they are to getting our communities fed on a daily basis.
Gentlemen, this particular time of year, everybody's really in the loss prevention world are trying to stay out of the way. is one of the things that we're trying to do. But LP and AP leaders often talk about connecting the dots between service, safety, and shrink. How do you help frontline associates see their role in the bigger mission and that what they do truly matters out there as we're getting into the holidays? Chris, why don't we go ahead and start with you? Chris Jerome.
Chris, you're on mute.
Sorry, here we go. How about the mute part work that time for me? Apologies for that. So no, thank you for that, Jack. And it's interesting. You talk about like having to connect the dots, right? This time of year, make sure they know whether it's the veteran employee or the new hires that are there to help out for the season. As Chris talked about, like maybe they're starting to get some cash and maybe they're not quite as invested. It is really just breaking it down in the small chunks. Like Chris, I'm a big fan if you're doing store visits to engaging, being up there proactive, right? It's not the time to come in and nitpick every little thing. You're really focusing if there's big major call outs. Certainly you got to address those and make sure that our customers stay safe and we don't have any major violations. But similar to what Chris said, like if you see them doing something the correct way, it's reinforcing that behavior, whether it's the safe lifting or how they did a curbside piece, following the process for how they handle a suspicious gift card sale, any of those things, it's recognizing it, not just saying good job, but tying it into how that was important or why that was important, how that helped keep the company safe or their fellow employees safe or the customers safe. Again, there's just a variety of things that we could talk about. Did they put the wet floor sign out at the front end? We're talking about the slip, trips, and falls. It's reinforcing those behaviors and acknowledging how that ties back into the bigger picture during your visit and interactions with them.
Excellent. Let's go to Chris Harris. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think those three go really well together when you say service and safety and shrink. So
Right.
for me, it's real easy. If you give good service, you're going to improve safety and you're going to improve shrink. So so much of what we need to do them to do at that front end is be aware, make that eye contact, and provide a warm greeting. I think that's a simple ask when you think about the impact you get out of something like that. So as we drive that message in the front end, that greeting, that simple ask, they should have no problem with it. But really talking through them about the other benefits. You're not just being friendly, you're also creating a safety culture and reducing shrink.
Gotta agree with that. Tom.
I hate to build on, but I do think that positivity is infectious. That's something I love to see out there, and so just building those connections with your customers and getting them to feel comfortable in the store. They'll also be very good advocates for you as well, to keep their eyes out as they're walking through the aisles. So anything from a service perspective just sounds like it's the easy thing, but it certainly goes a long way just to bringing everybody onto the same page.
We talk about have them do this and have them make eye contact and have them, be on the lookout for whatever. But, with a lot of these people that are newer, especially the ones that are newer, folks that have been around for a while, they've walked the walk, they kind of understand a little bit better. But, what do you guys do with those new associates to help them understand not just what to do, but the why behind it? What's that method, understanding why we have a loss prevention and safety strategy and why it's important, especially for those new hires. Tom, why don't you start from an industry perspective, what you see out there?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think that part of it is like, we've done some research, and a lot of the consumers recognize that when theft occurs, prices have the opportunity to go up. So I think part of it is an education piece of making sure they understand that it's everybody's job. Chris Harris and I walked some stores a couple years ago. It's everybody's job throughout the store to help keep that going. And certainly I understand right now, with just like the price of everything going up, obviously people are much more aware of the items they buy more frequently, which happen to be groceries. So connecting those dots together, I think, are really important, especially for those younger or newer staff that are still kind of learning their bearings within the store.
Chris, Jerome, what do you think? How do we get them? How do we get them to know the store and get their bearings and also understand the why and do it all in a really quick time while, you know, lines are long and people are looking to get in and out of the stores quickly?
You know, great question. And obviously, I talked about a little bit how I do it personally when I'm in visits or doing it right with my last answer. But it really is not just sitting them in front of the computer and giving them an LMS module, if I can say that acronym correctly. But you got to make sure that you've got the tie-in locally, that you've got either, if you're a bigger store that's got on-site asset protection, if you're a smaller store, which is relying on your leadership or the veteran employees there to help carry that message over. So it's just not putting a whole staff of new hires who started last week together, making sure they've got a good mix and carrying that seasonal integration to the veterans and telling them, just like what Tom just said, like, right, you got to make sure they understand the why behind it, whether it's the safety or the shrink standpoint of it, and give them the real life example. So again, back to my last answer of like giving them credit when they put the wet floor sign out, that how that kept their employees safe, their other coworkers safe, or the customers safe, right? And not just, oh, get a wet floor sign over there and walk it away. You got to make sure they understand the why behind it and tie it together for them.
I'll build on that, Chris, since Kevin went off camera here. You know, I really like to tell stories to those new hires because they don't have their own stories. I think if you work in retail long enough, you'll see enough. But when you're new, take that opportunity to tell a great story. So I could go to that new hire and say, hey, folks are going to call you on the phone and they're going to try and get you to do some things with cash and send it to them. Don't do it. Or I could say, hey, there was this time, true story, there was this time when a guy got a call from what he thought was his manager, and the manager told him he needed cash and told him to use a hammer and smash out the self-checkout until they can get the cash out, and then take it to a Bitcoin machine, a Bitcoin ATM, and send it to them in Bitcoin at 1 a.m, right? So when I tell that story that we actually had an associate or an employee fall for that scam, they remember that story. You know, they ask questions like, wait, he really took a hammer and smashed up the self-checkout? Yes, he did. It's a true story. So be aware of these scams. I think that goes a long way with your new hires.
Chris, I think that's a really good point. As we get into having some new or seasonal staff, certainly making sure they understand all of the scams that are out there that you all are aware of. And that's something that I really appreciate that the AP Council does, is we share those within each other so we understand what's out there, making sure that those new hires and younger staff are educated on what could be a scam. Certainly we smile and laugh as we hear about a hammer going to a self-checkout, but I mean, I've got probably 10 or 15 more stories that the council has shared for similar things, including, I think it was a tortilla grinder to a safe. So all kinds of items being used to get to money in very odd ways.
A tortilla grinder.
Yeah.
That's great. I might need to steal that. We're doing a presentation in the spring, where like game show style, scam or not, and telling some of those stories to see who can justify, you know, was it a scam or like, is it just made up? You know, I love that. A tortilla grinder.
You know, every store has its own culture. How do you tailor motivation and awareness strategies for different types of teams? I mean, everybody here is involved more on the grocery side, but we've got all different types of retailers out there that we have to keep in mind. Small town stores versus big city stores, different types of cultures with different types of retailers, day shifts versus night shifts. How do we look at all of those different things when we're talking about training and awareness and how we can share that message with our teams? Chris Harris, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, I think if we're conscious of not talking just to talk, and making sure that we are delivering a message in a way that it can be received. So you brought up small towns. You know, I'm in an area now that has some very, very small town stores, but we also have some big city stores. And there's a tremendous difference between the personalities in those small towns versus the ones that are in the cities. In your small towns, you'll find it's all about relationships. Folks want to be spoken to. They want to have a conversation. You don't just smile. You give a greeting, and that's the expectation of good service and appropriate communication. But if you go into more of a city and you give a greeting like that, and you want to talk, it's more, they have the thought of, what do you want from me? What are you trying from me? Right. So I think knowing your audience and knowing that is really the key to it. I think being aware, what is your environment like? What would be most how do you tailor your approach to be most receptive to those individuals in that area?
That's great point. Great point. Chris Drill.
Yeah, so to echo Chris on that, like your communication style, it's just knowing your audience, no different than any other communication that we may do, presentations, webinars. Do you talk to your staff differently than when you're talking up to the board meeting? It's the same kind of approach when you're in your stores. Know the type of store that you're at and what they're looking for from a communication standpoint. But then it is tying it together, like some of the stories that Chris just talked about, because sometimes in those small stores or small cities, they may do the old, oh, that would never happen to us, right? So if you get a chance to engage with them and say, hey, look, the phone scams are alive and well. Like, are you maybe as prone to as many push outs or grab and runs as the city stores are? Maybe not, but it doesn't mean that you're immune to scams, especially even if you're in a small town, but it's close to a highway, right? Talking to them about how the bad guys like the highways. It's like the web for them, right? It's just the network of roads for them to get to and from fraud stores, and they like to come off, hit the small towns because they know the guard is down, so to speak, right? And that we're not maybe as alert, and they can hop back on the road and keep on going. So it's bringing the stories to life. And we've all got them 10, 15, 25 plus years. You've got the stories that they can tie and resonate to. And it just gets them more engaged, right? It's better than just that LMS module or the nice posters we all put on the wall. While those serve a purpose, having that opportunity to engage with them and bring it to light is going to go a long way.
How do you do that with your team so much, Chris? What do you think you want to impress upon them as you look at to get them to go out into the stores and handle that?
Really, what I just said, it's making it personal, sharing the stories, right? Like we've all been there, done that, so to speak, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Obviously, sometimes you have to anonymize part of it. You can't turn around and say, hey, last week at store 50, they did this, right? They smashed it up. You gotta take some anonymization to it, but it's helping them along the way and making them comfortable where they don't feel too shy to engage. I know when I was in the field and the stores were starting to use the radios, I was one of the first ones to go on and say, let's get on the radio. I would come and announce myself and say, hi, everybody, it's great to be here. Going to be doing some things, explain why I was there, tell them don't hesitate to connect with me or grab me or ask me any questions while I'm there. I'm happy to do it. Make sure that they didn't feel shy to want to engage the asset protection of the fraud team, right? Because there tends to be that nature to run away. There's that bad connotation with it. And so being open and engaging with them was always my first approach. I want them to know that I was there to help and that they should feel comfortable asking those questions while I was there.
That's good advice.
And-
Tom, why don't you bring us home from an industry standpoint? What do you think?
Yeah, so thank you, Jack. I think this is a great opportunity to empower your store managers and assistant managers to kind of figure that out, right? What is that mix? What do their customers look like? It gives them a little bit more sense of ownership and hopefully pride in the work that they're doing within their stores, which hopefully will then kind of keep pushing all the things we've been talking about in terms of keeping people safe, preventing theft, but was just giving all of the employees a little bit more ownership. And by thinking about, is it a big city? Is it, what is the individual customer looking for? I also think that the culture is a little bit of a differentiator, right? So knowing that and being able to build on that throughout the year, but certainly in the holiday season could end up building a bigger customer base throughout the year.
I think those are all really excellent points. And, knowing your audience, also can mean learning the language, right? I mean, that language can change very quickly from, area to area, state to state, different parts of the country. Super, super helpful there. I'm hearing a recurring theme through all of these, words of wisdom here so far. So I think I already know the answer, but for our LP and AP professionals out there, we talk about, protecting people and profits and the brand. What would be your one takeaway piece of advice, your one best practice that you would want everybody tuning in today to bring back to their stores and to their teams? And Chris Jerome, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, all three of those things are important to protect, right? And similar to how Chris answered the service and the shrink portion of it, right? How those all tie together. I think protecting your people kind of ties back in. You protect the people, they're going to be protecting the brand and the profits portion to it. And especially as you get to this time of year where tensions can be higher and the frustrations can be higher, there can be more aggressive interactions. They need to feel that support, especially if you get those front end people, the ones that are interacting directly with the consumers. So make sure that you don't go out there and undermine them if they're maybe having that customer wants, I need the manager right now, right? You may have to go over and override them on something and give that markdown or the refund that's above and beyond your policy to help de-escalate that situation. But don't just undermine them and walk away. You need to make sure that if you have to do something like that, that you're taking the time to explain to them, and don't hesitate to handle how your organization wants and professionally and politely tell the customer, maybe you're not really right. We're going to give this an exception, but don't just go out there and always side with the customer and really damage that relationship with their people. And just focus that they matter, that they are the brand, and that is what we're going to have out there to protect our organization. And if you do that, you take care of your people, they usually have found they'll take care of you.
Excellent. Tom?
I was going to say something very similar. I think it's really important that they feel protected, and certainly, as tensions rise, they also shouldn't feel like they have to do anything that's outside of their comfort. So I think a good example, again, it depends on your company, right? But like you shouldn't have to feel like you have to chase somebody down or put yourself in a tough situation. That's why we're a team. That's why you've got the AP, LP professionals there. That's why you've got law enforcement, et cetera. So making sure that they understand what they can and can't do, and also what they can kind of step back from in certain instances, I think is really important.
Excellent. All right, Chris.
All
We'll wrap
right.
it up.
I would say, first from an AP perspective, don't underestimate your impact. AP leaders are absolutely essential to every organization, especially this time of year. So I would say remember that. Secondly, I would stick to our theme here. That front end, they're your first and your last line of defense. They're the ones that greet the customers, spot suspicious behavior, prevent theft and fraud. And if they're not engaged, aware, and empowered, then your entire strategy is vulnerable. So be aware of that.
And that was where I expected that you were going to go, because that's kind of been the theme right through this conversation, which is spot on. So thank you guys for that. I'll ask you one quick question before we go. This is on the lighter note. Your most creative or hilarious either ugly sweater or holiday tradition that you've seen your stores or your store teams pull off while staying professional? Any fun stories from any of the past, either present or past companies and store teams that you've been with? Chris, how about you? Chris Harris.
The one that comes to mind is I was in a store and all the associates, all the employees were laughing and giggling and showing pictures on their camera. So I walked over and I said, "What's going on here?" It was their division president showed up wearing a turkey hat, and it wasn't a live turkey. It was a cooked turkey, golden brown, with stuffing coming out and the legs. And I tell you what, these employees were it just lightened the mood, and it lightened everything that day. So as busy as they were really having a good time, and that carried on to how they treated their customers. So I thought that was real fun. I'm not going to wear a turkey hat, baby, but I know if I get there, what the response will be.
All right, Chris Jerome, how about you?
Yeah, I don't know that I can top the turkey hat, but an organization I worked with really embraced the holidays. Really embraced it, especially through the elf theming. A lot of the employees had like elf style hats, and that was kind of their mantra for several seasons in a row, that they were the elves there to help you. But above the hats, or just maybe some basic shirts, we had a few employees that kind of like Tom went all out, would come in the full like elf outfit, top to bottom. Would have the little booties that would go over their shoes, so they could have safety shoes on, but still have the full thing. And their coworkers always embraced it. You could tell those stores had a much better mood, and then it carried out to the customers. You could see it at the front end, and it just really helped keep that fun environment in what is a stressful time. for both employees and the customers. Some customers don't want to be out there either. Let's not forget that portion of it.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? While they're running around frustrated, if you can make them stop and smile for a minute, they remember that, right? So, great stuff. Tom, I don't know if you can beat the tortilla grinder, but go ahead real quick before we head on to the next one.
I don't know that I have a story, but if I can just build off of what both Chris has said, I think giving the employees the opportunity to do something fun in the holidays lightens the mood. And Chris, I really like that you said, like, sometimes the customers don't want to be out either. So how do we just get everybody to stop and laugh a little bit? I don't know that I'll be in a turkey costume. Maybe if you guys dare me long enough, I'll try to see if I can get an actual Buddy the Elf costume. Although this is being recorded, so I guess now I have to follow through. But it's just seeing even you guys laugh as I bring that up. I think it's important to remember that, you know, how do we keep everybody happy? And it's just a fun way to be able to do that. So I appreciate the stores that give that little bit of freedom to their employees.
Yeah, I would definitely do it. I actually have the full thing. I got the beard, I got the whole, got it all, but it's a little harder to hear and talk through it. So, all right. Well, thank you guys very, very much. Really appreciate your insights today. Great session, great conversation. Sorry that we started off a little bit wonky there with my connection, but super glad to have had you guys involved and really appreciate you. So thanks so much.
For over 37 years, i3 International has helped retail leaders fight organized crime with affordable, AI-powered intelligence. As ORC tactics evolve, retailers need smarter defenses. One retailer using i3 technology uncovered over $370,000 in preventable losses. Our solutions detect self-checkout fraud, cart pushouts, and various forms of retail theft. When integrated with our facial recognition, the system helps you identify and build cases against repeat offenders. Contact us to see how i3's affordable solutions can transform your business.
There we go. Next up, Motorola. Motorola Solutions provides retailers with an intelligent safety and security ecosystem designed to protect customers, associates, and assets while simultaneously driving operational efficiency across the entire store environment. This connected platform leverages AI, real-time video security, and voice-activated communication to empower frontline teams with the tools and insights they need to optimize workflows and enhance response capabilities. Check out Motorola Solutions. And lastly, Axon is a global leader in public safety technology. In response to rising violence and theft, they have expanded into the private sector with a connected safety ecosystem purpose-built for frontline teams, including those in retail, healthcare, and beyond. At the center of their ecosystem is Axon OS. It's an integrated safety and security operating system that connects all of your sensors, your data alerts, and software with one login and through one single pane of glass. Learn more about Axon at axon.com. And that's all of our sponsors for today. So let's go into the next session.
All right, very good. I'm a little thrown off today. I was going to wear my turkey hat today, and now I'm just disappointed that I didn't get a chance to wear it. Kind of stole the thunder there a little bit. But this next presentation, we've got Heather Hearn and Lauren Leitzenbach. Let's go ahead and start with Heather. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Heather?
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Kevin, for having me. My name is Heather Hearn. I oversee e-commerce fraud and physical security for Wawa. So Wawa here, we're closing in on close to 1,200 stores in 13 states, and I have been at Wawa for 29 years. In addition to my role at Wawa, I am also the president of the RLPSA, which is the Restaurant Loss Prevention and Security Association.
Excellent. Thanks for being here with us today, Heather. And Lauren Linsenbach. Lauren with Ahold Delhaize. How about tell us a little about yourself?
Taking the introduction, yeah. So it's great to be here. Thank you for the invite. As Kevin said, I work for Ahold Delhaize. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's an organization that supports 5 different grocery brands on the East Coast. So starting up north, we have Hannaford, Stop and Shop, Giant Company, Giant Food, and also Food Lion. And obviously, me being in the asset protection world, I support the analysts, and we also support I have the investigations team, and also newly acquired the e-commerce fraud group. But with that, I've been in the asset protection field itself for about 14 years. I ventured into the pharmacy retail, softline clothing, wireless, and then obviously now the grocery. So asset protection is definitely the passion, but I'm excited to share some information on today's call.
Excellent. Well, we're excited to have you both. Appreciate you joining the conversation. Let's start out with, it's holiday time. There seems to be a lot more activity from a fraud perspective, not just in the sales perspective. And, we see a spike in fraud and social engineering and stuff during the holidays. But what's really driving that increase at the front end? Are the offenders like changing their methods each year, or are they just, taking advantage of the rush and the distractions and the new hires? Laura, let's start with you.
Yeah. So I think all of those things come into play. And then certainly I think the scams overall, I mean, I think there's ones that have been around for years. When it comes to the quick change behaviors, tap to pay fraud, that's been on everybody's topic. I think in every retail environment has been impacted through those scams. But certainly I think from an increase of activity, I think we see it year in and year out, but it's definitely during the holiday season. And I think that the bad actors know that we have increased traffic everywhere. And we know that, I think everybody knows that you have new hires, or you have temporary, cashiers that are taking full responsibility in that front line of decision making on those registers, and it gets chaotic for everybody. I think there's the panic, or you don't want to slow down the customer, or the customers get frustrated, or they're stressed because it's the holiday season. And I think we all kind of get that vibe from those experiences. But I think the scams itself, I think they're always evolving, unfortunately. And I think it's trying to stay ahead, or communicate what those scams are and how to approach and what to look out for.
Heather, you want to layer onto that?
Yeah, no, so fully agree with Lauren. I mean, scams, they tend to be cyclical in nature. There's typically no pattern or logic to how they unfold. They absolutely increase this time of the year, but they do go on throughout the year. So each scam call that we find is that it's the scammer trying to educate themselves, elicit that information. So every time they get another nugget of information, they're really just adjusting their script to make the next scam call more successful than the previous calls. But what's evident is that as soon as they achieve success at a retailer or at a location, they persistently target that retailer and then repeatedly exploit those weaknesses that they're uncovering.
Let's back up just a little bit here and talk about some of these different scams, build off that a little bit. If you look at gift card tampering to fake refunds to phone-based corporate scams, which tactics are you seeing most at the front end so far this year? What do you anticipate are going to be some of those bigger scams in the upcoming season?
Yeah, and how do they work? Let's just talk a little bit about that. What are you seeing? Like, what are some of those behaviors? Heather, we'll stick with you.
Yeah, so across the industry, the phone scams, especially those involving Bitcoin, are, I mean, we just talked about the one with the hammer. I think I've heard of every device imaginable. The tortilla grinder was the first. I hadn't heard that one before, but I've heard of take your hammer, take a fire extinguisher, take all wacky devices to try to gain access to somewhere where cash is. But it's really those that are right now involving Bitcoin are the biggest. A couple of years ago, it was the gift card phone scams, calling over the phone, getting people to activate the gift cards, read those numbers over the phone. But now that we have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin remains very untraceable and very much unrecoverable, that's really what we see the most of, and what I hear among my industry peers as well.
Okay, Lauren?
Yeah, definitely. You had mentioned a whole various scams. I'll touch on, there's the gift card tampering, right? So, or the gift card swapping that was very popular throughout this year, and last year. And I think it's going to continue. I think, as we know, gift cards are readily available. They're easy, they're small, they can be, swapped out quickly, and or exchanged on the sales floor. I think that's going to be something that we continue to see, with some of the known actors that are out there. But yeah, I mean, going the other scam that I think is brand damaging is certainly the skimmers. So it's not necessarily a scam or something that the cashiers are directly impacted, but the placement of skimmers, I think, is a danger to all of the retail environment, not only to the customers that are being impacted with the cards that are being extracted, or the balances being impacted, but ultimately, if a skimmer's found and the customers find out about it and whatnot, again, that the customers are losing faith, right? So I think from going into the holiday season specifically is making sure that we do, or the store teams are doing the daily checks on the pin pads to make sure that those are not compromised, or there's not anything on the actual pin pad itself, and certainly reporting the information to the necessary leadership team to make action or ensure that that's found and reported quickly.
How do we make the teams more aware of some of these scams? Like, for example, the gift cards kiosks. I mean, I think most associates look at it, well, there's no value to the card until you actually put value on the card. So that I don't think they pay as much attention. You also have some retailers that put those kiosks in areas that aren't necessarily in plain view for everybody. How do we make our teams more aware of these different types of scams and what can happen? Lauren, I'd start with you.
Yeah, certainly. And I think because of the frequency of, or at least in our environment, we did have a lot of activity with the gift card swapping. So I would say for the associates that have been there, throughout the course of the year, they are well aware of that. But to your point, and the technology of the bad actors and how they are manipulating and switching out those gift cards, if you will, they are very difficult to come across and difficult to identify, unfortunately. But I think, again, just talking with the associates and letting them know that this is activity that, reminding that this is what happened throughout the year, and then certainly it's going to be seen or probable that we're going to see the activity going into the holiday season, and just education. I mean, speaking about what scenarios may have happened, prior weeks throughout the year, and really just not being afraid to share that information, or if the store was particularly impacted, sharing how they were impacted and what to look out for. It's basic communication on resurfacing what could happen and what should the associates be on the lookout for.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Lauren, while we're on that.
Yeah.
What is it that what does it look like, when, well, the skimmers, what are some of the things they're looking for that on the front end? What's the behavior that we're looking for? I might be a manager, and I'm looking out on the floor and I see the cashiers dealing with a customer, and I'm not thinking much about it, until I look a little bit closer and realize there's maybe a certain behavior that isn't right, or there's something. But what is that behavior? What does it look like? What do these scams look like on the floor, or even from CCTV? If I'm looking down, I see an interaction. What are some of the things I'm looking for?
Yes. Speaking about the skimmer activity or the placement of the skimmers, these bad actors, they are efficient. They're very quick. So in order to identify that behavior, the person or the cashier, normally it happens within I'd say 30 seconds or less. And here you think about the transaction. If I'm the bad actor and I give somebody cash, the register turns sideways to go to the register to extract change. Just in those couple seconds that that bad actor could place and swap the skimmer. So what to look for? Again, there's not really the best answer for it. It's just keeping a diligent eye. And if you catch it or you see somebody pull something out of their hoodie or a bag or something and messing with the pin pad itself, immediately address it and call your manager over. Or again, If that person goes to leave, report it to the manager, get it off of that pin pad immediately. But yeah, if you see the behavior of someone twitching around with the pin pad itself and it just seems suspicious, or something falls on the floor, certainly is an indicator, right? But from the preventative side, I would say every morning, and I know that there's payroll that's involved, and it's one additional thing that I know, time is of the essence, and we only have so many people in a store. From the associate side, but doing those daily checks, there's tools out there that you can place inside of the pin pad, and if it's green, all is okay, right? But if you insert it and it comes back red, there's something that may have been tampered with for that pin pad.
Heather, the process of scamming a front end associate or cashier in the store, that's really, it's more manipulation, right? It's we have our online things that come through that are more of like a hacking and phishing and that type of stuff, right? Bad emails and text scams and things like that. But when somebody's shrewd enough, it's going to use a different word, to go into the stores and try to coerce the associate into doing something, and scamming them. What does that sound like? If I'm in line behind them, if I'm a manager and I'm within earshot, what are some of these scams, and what are some of the things that folks should be listening for?
Yes, it comes down to just trying to manipulate or confuse the associate. So if you think back in the day to the flim flams, when the quick change artists, trying to confuse the associate of, no, I gave you a 20, give me back a 10, and then they leave the store with their entire dollar amount. Some of the latest scams around that are they're coming in and paying with what they're calling a credit card, but on the back of the credit card they have direction that says, oh, push this series of buttons and a cash button, and then now it just cashed out the entire sale. So it's these things where they just try to confuse and fluster the associate to make them believe that they're doing what they're really supposed to be doing, but it's benefiting the scammer in the end. So vigilance is truly what the associates, they just need to be calm, vigilant, and then just pay attention to what they're doing and remember their training.
Yeah, that cash out scam's getting very popular. And that is an interesting one to make sure to point out, because you don't usually buy a gift card, a payment card, or have a credit card that tells you, here's how to ring this transaction,
Right.
and that's definitely something that we want people to listen for and to look out for, right? Because it's saying, press this button, press this number, and then hit this, and now it just rang through as cash, but there's no cash in the drawer. It just, and they're walking out the door with the merchandise as if they bought it, but we know they didn't
Yeah.
buy it. So
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, let's kind of expand on that just a little bit more. I mean, how would you like to see your managers respond, your sales teams respond when they're dealing with something where they suspect that they have a problem like that? I mean, obviously, we don't want to put anybody in a situation where they're going to get hurt, okay? But how do you want your folks to respond specifically in some of those situations, Heather?
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about it from an example of, individual coming to the counter with multiple gift cards and just simple engagement. I mean, Chris touched on it earlier, customer service, just simple customer service. Oh, look, come to the counter. Oh, wow, like someone's really getting a nice gift. What's the occasion? Criminals don't like to be highlighted. They don't want attention. If they're not going to be able to answer that question because there is no gift and there is no occasion, because it's all going to them or to wherever they're sending it back to, and just ask those questions. That simple customer engagement. If it's a real customer, you're engaging the customer. Likely when it's not, they're not going to be able to answer it. Let them try to answer it, ask more questions, prod a little bit more. If they're a little evasive and they're raising some red flags for you, call the manager over, ask for ID, do something to try to shine a little bit of light on that individual, because what's going to happen is they're going to get very physically fidgety. They're going to be like, oh, never mind, I don't want it. And then they're out the door. And then that's how it wasn't real to begin with.
There you go. Lauren, anything you would add?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Heather said, I think also, I mean, certainly the encouraging of your cashiers to not to hesitate to contact or call over a manager, or just put the transaction on hold. I think, like I said, and as another comment, as everybody feels like they're in a rush, and I think that's where we fall victim the most. And our cashiers end up making the wrong decision and pursuing the transactions because they feel as though they're just trying to move through, and they don't like that tension feeling. So I think from the manager side is, again, having those conversations. You're not bothering me if you call me over. I would much rather you call me over if you think something's suspicious, or, again, have the blame game, if you will, right? So have the cashier say, well, unfortunately, I don't have the authority, or I can't process a transaction to include that much or this much gift card of a purchase. I need my manager to come over. And then again, from the manager side is I'll obviously kill them with kindness, ask questions. And Heather mentioned it, that the bad actors don't want that engagement. They don't want to be recognized. They don't want to be able to, hey, that person seems suspicious. They want to quickly make their transaction and get out with the least attention possible.
Yeah, and just another flip side of it too. So just that engagement and that customer service could actually save an individual who might be getting scammed. So, we've all heard of the IRS is coming to arrest you because you didn't pay for something, and you got to go to your closest store and buy $800 in Apple cards to pay the IRS. Well, we know that's not real, but a lot of, regular people just, again, that social engineering piece of it, they get scammed into it. So sometimes just that general customer service of, oh, what are you doing with all of this, can unfold and uncover and maybe save one of your actual customers from getting scammed as well.
Well, and because these guys call and they make it sound legit, right?
Yeah.
They think, whether it's a customer, and it's an IRS scam, or it's a fear scam, where they're scaring them into paying for either a bill or someone who a relative who was hurt and needs legal, whatever. Or it's in the stores, right? They call and they say, I'm with corporate, or I'm with IT, and we're checking, whatever. When we're training when you're training your teams, have you found any language maybe that works better than others, or training tactics that has gotten attention to help, people kind of drive that message? I mean, it might be a catchy little catchphrase. It might be or just, good old fashioned good direction. But Heather, what do you think? What do you think is resonating?
Yeah, so ours is slam the scam, because it's typically a telephone call. So
Okay.
our catchphrase is slam the scam. Part of what we do in the training and the communication, we're consistently pushing it out. So, I mean, especially right now, almost every other week, there's a different message going out about scams. But we actually tell them the actual stories. And Chris actually touched on this earlier. We tell them the actual stories that just came in, this is the story that 123 had. Congratulations to store 123, you slammed the scam. This is the story that store 456 had. Congratulations, you scammed the scam. So we're not only educating them and telling them really what these calls sound like, but we're also celebrating them too for doing the right thing.
Excellent. Lauren?
Yeah, very similar. I do like slam scan. That's clever. I like that. But yeah, it's just over communication, highlighting, when someone does do something well, or catches or declines a scam that could have impacted the business. So celebrating that individual and celebrating the story with multiple, whether it's the brands in total or just the brand itself. But also it's just whether you have, whether it's an email communication or whether it's a sheet, or let's just say bullet points of, this is what to look for. This is the awareness, and no one's going to call you asking for a Bitcoin. Like the transaction should not be processed. And again, everybody reads it, everybody has heard of it. But again, it's unfortunately we fall victim because we're all in a rush, and sometimes we forget. So, ultimately it's leadership. I think it's operations, it's asset protection, it's in store. Everybody has to be talking about it and keeping those reminders fresh. Because as soon as we stop talking about it or take the finger off the pulse, I think that's when unfortunately we were impacted by the scam or the fraud.
Yeah, great points. Great point. So when we talk about this and increasing the awareness, what do you think that asset protection team should be doing right now, November, December, to support their front end staff? Is it how do we get that training message out? Is it quick huddles? Is it, refreshers? Is it the in-person visit? What's most impactful in your opinion?
I mean, certainly, I think it should be happening all year long. So I think it should be, this shouldn't be a surprise conversation for your teams at this point. And I think, certainly there's that heightened awareness. So I would say during store visits or the weekly touch bases, I think it should be something that's called out and addressed. Whether that's in person during your, store visits or you're having those calls, somewhere find the space to make sure that they're hearing those messages. And like I said, it's sharing the positives and it's sharing, what could happen and what do you do during those scenarios. So not only like, hey, these scams could take place, be on the lookout, but give them examples, role play it out. I think those are the best ways to explain the whys. So and maybe it'll click or it may resonate with somebody a little bit deeper.
Excellent. Heather, what do you think?
Communication. The more you say it, the over and over again, the broken record. Theatro, one of our sponsors here today, is actually someone that we use. We have Theatro messages that go out consistently over all shifts. So every shift is hearing the same message and the same reminders over and over again. Signage, I mean, there is no silver bullet. If there was, I think Lauren and I would probably be on to different roles, but there really is no silver bullet, and we're all facing the same challenges. And I think just in, sessions like these where we can all hear and learn from each other, what are we all doing and how are we combating it and talking to our peers?
Well, it's difficult to say, thank goodness for the bad guys, because they keep us employed, but they're also creative little buggers, aren't they? And, it's always a new scam. Like, we've already said several times on this call today, well, a couple of years ago it was this, but there's just that constant change, and someone's always looking to find that new way to beat the system, right? And we got great solution providers out there that are making those those tools to help us combat that. So, after the holidays end, how can the retailers carry what they learned from these seasonal scams into year round? What do you think that AP people should be, those lessons learned, and how they, do they change their approach going forward? Do they add that to their training tool belt? Heather, I'll stay with you on this one.
Well, after the holidays are over, scams are done. There are no more. I don't know
Exactly,
what you're talking
right?
about.
What do you do then? Yeah.
No, so no, I mean, it is all year long. And that's the kind of what we opened with and led with, that throughout the year, they're just learning and hearing what the individual, when they answer the phone, the little piece of nugget that you don't realize that you're giving out, that piece of information with that social engineering. They're just so good at their job. And it's unfortunate that that's their job, but they're so good at it. And it's just consistently gathering those stories from your stores. The successful scams and the unsuccessful scams, we require them to report them so that we can have that database to know, okay, here's what's being said, and we're just consistently pushing them out.
That's excellent. Lauren?
Yeah, similar to what Heather said, I would say from an asset protection field in itself, learning what those scams are, looking at what's submitted by the stores and reading through, was there something more unique that we're learning about, or could be, introduce that into the futuristic conversations of awareness type thing. But from the asset protection, what are we using or what do we do with that scammed activity, right? So we go back, we try to identify maybe who that suspect was. Is it connected to a larger ring? And I would just say from, the collaboration efforts from one brand or one retail environment to the other is having that open, I'd say information sharing and approaching it potentially with an investigation if it's credible and large enough, if you will, if it's like similar to the gift card swapping, right? That was, I think, every state impacted, every retail environment was impacted. And what are we doing as an industry to cross-functionally share information, right? And tackle these investigations. So what I would like to see, after the holidays is what are we doing with the scammed activity that may or may not have impacted our brands?
Jack, you got something else?
I actually think we just about got it covered, Kevin. And is there anything else that we want to run through here, do you think?
Yeah, I think as far as one thing that you guys would like to see maybe change, maybe it's a technology change, maybe it's a training change, or how we communicate. Is there a wish list? We're at the holidays. Let's do a wish list. Is there a wish list that you would see to help better combat this this fraud and scam issue? Heather, I'll start with you.
My wish list involves AI. If there was a way that AI, when that phone, there's listening in on that phone call, if it could pick up and be like, wait, stop, stop, stop. AI is telling you don't do this. Because sometimes, you know, the human is a little more vulnerable than what AI is.
Excellent. Lauren?
Yeah, wish list technology. Like I know as an example, you know, there's Everseen that's out there that catches behavior that goes through POS and activity of that nature. You know, how could we have that technology similar to AI to impact people, right? And you know, the behaviors of people, or you know, they're on their Bluetooth and they're fidgeting through multiple cards on their phone. Could we be able to track that activity potentially to then give us an alert? You know, I think that's far out there, but at the same time, it is human behavior and it's manipulation at its finest. And you know, unfortunately, I think it's just going to be enhanced training, and delivering a message to the associates that are the front line. They are the ones making those decisions, and you know, ultimately, you know, creating these scam successes. But yeah, I think it's just technology is always, you know, evolving, and how can we continue to potentially get into that space? You know, I wish I had the answer to that, but not today.
Yeah, exactly right. Or maybe we all get off this call and we go start a new
Yeah.
a new anti-fraud initiative if we get that answer. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining the conversation today and helping to lead a great discussion around this. Hopefully, you know, we got some folks that got a little something out of it. Lauren, before I lose you, there was a question in the Q&A about is there a device or tech that allows you to check for the tampered pin pads?
I can I'll look in the chat and I will get back to that person and give the brand of the tool that we use.
Yeah, it's in the Q&A.
Okay.
Jack, I'm not seeing Howard on here. Have you got?
I am not either. That's kind of where
Yeah.
I was a little distracted. I was trying to.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for at the same time, because we might be short Howard with our counterfeit cash discussion. And looks like we got someone else who just asked for that skimmer detection brand too, Lauren. So
Yeah, I'll send
defer to
it.
you for that
I'll get
one.
you that information. And I can either send it in the chat if the call's still going on, or Kevin, if you want, I can send it to you and you can do, if we can share it out, I think that would work well for everybody.
Yeah, that's great.
The
That's
one,
great.
the one that I do know about is Skim Scan. It's a long device, so you can probably just Google that to the individuals who were asking that. That is one device that's very popular in the industry.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple out there.
Mhm.
And some of them, you know, it's a simple plastic tool. It's nothing fancy, nothing that's earth shaking. But again, you basically put that into the cards, where you put your card in or insert your card, and then it would basically give you a red or green. So it's very simplistic. So I'll share that with the group.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think we're at that point where we want to give some stuff away. So,
Do that.
Jack, are you ready to watch this?
I am ready.
All right. So we've got a couple of scholarships that we have to give away here today. We've got 2 LPQ scholarships and 1 LPC scholarship from sponsored by Motorola Solutions. We've got OpenEye has sponsored 3 CFI scholarships, and then you've got yours truly, who sponsored the $100 gift card. So here's how it works. These are the rules. So no games, no trivia questions today. This is going to be entering something into the Q&A here. And the first one that Jack sees, and that means, you know, it may not be the first one, but it's the first one that Jack sees and calls out with this information will, you know, his call goes. That's it. You're the winner, and we'll announce that by the end of the session here. These are not transferable, so if you already are CFI or LPQ or LPC, please don't take it away from somebody who is not and who can use this, especially the holidays coming up. It's a giving season. Give them a chance. And if you are already a previous scholarship winner, and if you started but didn't finish, you're also not eligible, is what I am told. So for all of these, so please be in it to win it for yourself, and it's something that you really, really want. And if you really do want it, the first, let's see, we got 1 for LPC, we got 2 for LPQ, and the first 3 people for CFI on the following. So for the LPQ, you got to type in the Q&A, Cindy Lou Who needs an LPQ. For the LPC, it's leave an LPC under my tree. You can add for me in there too. Leave an LPC under my tree for me? Sure, why not? For the CFI, reindeer can fly with CFI. And for the $100 gift card, let's leave it plain and simple, just holiday cash. So the first ones to throw in the proper, and if you can spell who with 1 0, it doesn't have to be 2 or 1 0, yeah, 1 letter O. But if you want to do 2 letter O's, you can. So Cindy Lou Who needs an LPQ. We got leave an LPC under the tree for me, and reindeer can fly with CFI. Jack is diligently writing up.
Diligently looking at them right now, guys. So
So
give
you
me 1
deal with
second.
that while I go through the next slides here. It looks like we're missing Howard, and Howard is was our next presenter here on counterfeit cash. We've done a lot with the Federal Reserve Board folks at the Currency Education Program over the years. We were hoping to bring in Howard today. It looks like he didn't make it. So what we will do instead is Jack and I will arrange some time with Howard. We will still record this piece of the session, and then we will send you guys, everyone who is registered for this session will get an email from either from the magazine or from me directly with a link to that part of the presentation, so that you don't miss out. And we will look to do that relatively quickly because it is coming up on the holidays, and they have some great counterfeit cash tips and best practices to share, as well as a lot of good information on the Currency Education Program. They've really broadened what they do. They've got videos, they've got podcasts. There's a lot of resources out there that are available for you. So definitely want to make sure that we get that information and get it out to everybody. But since Howard is not here, we will not do that right now, and you won't be able to put any questions in the Q&A either. So instead, we'll give everybody back about 12 minutes of their day today, and thank our sponsors, Alto, Flock Safety, Motorola, or Teatro, which is a Motorola Solutions company, Gatekeeper Systems, Axon, and i3 International. We love, love, love our sponsors, and you should too, because they're the ones who give the gift of these sessions. And without them, we wouldn't be able to bring all this good stuff to you. So love, love, love the sponsors. And please take a minute, just take a minute and go learn a little bit more about them. And maybe you don't need them today, but you might find a need for them tomorrow, and you'll be that much better educated about what they do and how they can help you in your business.
Hey, Kevin, real quick.
Yes,
I did put the skimmer that we currently are using. I put that in the chat section.
okay,
If anybody would like to reference that.
perfect. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And thank you to our education partner, Loss Prevention Foundation. If you are not already certified, then now is a great time to do it. Coming up on the holidays, you know, you don't have a lot going on. I'm sure you're just kind of hanging back, looking for something to do, and that's not true. But you probably will have some time, hopefully after the beginning of the year. So get involved now. It's a gift that keeps giving. It's professional certification. It's great for your career. There's that really excited person who's so excited about LP Magazine. That little girl, boy, we just made her holiday, giving her a free subscription to Loss Prevention Magazine. There's that QR code that Stephanie loves for me to show. So snap a picture on your computer or use your device and snap the QR code and connect in and get subscribed for free today and every day, or go to losspreventionmedia.com. And I think that'll just about do it. I want to thank all of our speakers today. I want to thank Tom and Chris Squared. We had Chris Harris and Chris Jerome. We had Lauren Linsenbach. We got Heather Hearn, and we almost had Howard. So thank everybody for joining us today. Thanks to all of our speakers. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Jack, bring it home.
I'm ready. Let me announce our winners. For our LPC, we have Richard Stable. For our LPQs, we have Marcus Edwards and Jeff Godertz. Hope I got that right, Jeff. Philip Thrower won our gift card. And our CFIs, Chelsea Lambert, Aaron Habas. There was 3 of them, wasn't there, Kevin?
There should be 3. Yep.
Okay, I'm going to have to find that third one here. Give me 1 second.
Reindeer Fly with CFI.
Reindeer Fly with CFI is Forrest Wilson.
Forrest Wilson. Congratulations. There we go. There's our winners for today. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate the time. Thank you, and stay safe, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you. Have a great holiday.